It's like a winter wonderland.
Hi.
Buongiorno. Also, I just want to say sorry, even though I don't think you care. I don't think I've ever watched a YouTube video where they said, sorry, the lighting is so bad. Sorry about the lighting. And I gave a fuck. Like, I'm not watching a Netflix program. So, The White Lotus is a TV show on HBO Max. I don't know, I live in Canada, so I don't have that shit. But it's about a hotel chain, kind of like the Four Seasons. And the first season, they were in Hawaii. I don't know how to explain it. It's comedy, but it's also a drama. But it also is like a murder mystery. Like each season starts out where you find out that there is a dead body. That's all you really know. And then it backtracks to the beginning of their trip at this hotel. The season now is in Sicily. Throughout the show, books are used to show the personality of these characters and aids their characterization. It's very subliminal. They'll just be like reading them or holding them. Hardly do they talk about the books that they're reading, but of course, that's what this whole video is gonna be about. So in the first season especially, all those bitches were reading. They were all reading. But the second season, there's only 2 of them. That's not true. In the most recent episode, there was Albie's character was reading this book about, I think it was about architecture or physics. I looked it up online and it was like $50 and it was not at my library and I don't want to read that shit. So I'm not. But I picked out a few books that I'm gonna read in this video for some reason. I don't know, why not? So the first one is a book that okay, so Sydney Sweeney's character and her friend that she brings along on the trip, they are like these ultra woke teenagers. They are constantly reading an iconic nonfiction book that they read like Nietzsche and a whole bunch of Sigmund Freud, which the other day my professor said, you all one day should read Nietzsche, by the way. And I thought, oh, maybe that's actually like, let me check that out. So I did, and I saw the page count and I read what it was about and I was like, maybe not all of us, so I'm not gonna be reading that, but there was one book that kind of caught my interest, and it also was the shortest one, and that is The Wretched of the Earth by Franz Fanon, and that's about like colonization and the psychological impacts of that on the people that were colonized, I believe. The next book is read by Rachel, who is on her honeymoon. She marries wealthy, and on the trip, she kind of finds out that her now husband is, kind of a piece of shit. She reads My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, which this is, I believe, the first one in a 4-part series. I've seen it around, but I've never really been interested in reading it, but here we are now. But this is about 2 girls and their lives growing up in Italy during the 1950s. There's not much else a synopsis says. What I have realized is that's like low-key, I don't know if that's purposeful that they're reading that to kind of foreshadow the second season, since that is set in Italy, which I think is kind of fun. I feel like that was not on purpose though. And then read by her husband, Shane, is Blank by Malcolm Gladwell. Fuck self-help. I cannot I just don't need a book telling me how to live my life. Like, I feel like I'm doing fine. Can I say that? And I feel like so often in self-help, it's just pure bullshit that is not based in reality whatsoever. And I think this is going to be a great example of this because it's so popular, and I feel like it's the popular ones that you gotta watch out for. Okay, so this is about this presents in popular science format research from psychology and behavioral economics on the adaptive unconscious, mental processes that work rapidly and automatically from relatively little information. So it's like Sigmund Freud, but for the finance bros, which makes total sense being that he is a wealthy trust fund baby. And then these two are from the second season, the first one being read by Aubrey Plaza. She reads Lost Children Archive. This was released in 2019. This book is in part inspired by the ongoing American policy of separating children from their parents at the Mexican-American border. And then the last book that I'm gonna read is a book that was read by Harper's husband Ethan, and it's called Everything is Fucked, a book about hope, question mark. I think this is another like self-helpy, self-righteous book. Oh no! This was written by Mark Manson, who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I've never read that book, and I've never been interested in reading that book. That book, I've heard honestly nothing about at all, but I've seen it absolutely everywhere. It is in every single airport. But the title alone is so just, like, I don't need a book. I don't need a book for that. I wouldn't be doing this if I did. I would like have a bit more respect for my, and like be more like aware and self-conscious of people perceiving me like this. What is this book about? Wow. This is kind of like a sequel to what The Subtle Art of whatever the fuck. But in this, it says that he turns his gaze from the inevitable flaws within each individual self to the endless calamities taking place in the world around us. Drawing from the pools of psychological research on these topics, as well as the timeless wisdom of philosophers such as Plato, Nietzsche, and Tom Waits. Okay, cool. I feel like it's like self-help for men, which is like, damn, like you got a lot of, like I'm a man, but like I'm not like that kind of man that would read that shit. Self-help targeted towards men? A 300-page book isn't even gonna dent it. I'm sorry. Like, clinical psychological help. I don't know. Okay, let me read those books. Fuck. Okay, so things are not going well. Well, actually things are going pretty well, but just not really. I finished recently My Brilliant Friend. Last night I started Aubrey, what's her name's not, why did I think her name was Beanie? Aubrey Plaza's character. I started Lost Children Archive. So far, I'm only on page 70, but I'm liking it so much. I'm very much enjoying it, very much so. So I'm gonna try to finish this weekend. I also, yesterday I also finished reading Night Crawling, which like is not a part of this. So I don't know why I'm including that. Actually, I do know why I'm including that, because I'm really behind. I wanted to post this video on the season finale. Today's Saturday, and next Sunday is the season finale of season 2. That means I've got like 4 books to read. And if I want to edit, I got like 4 books to read by like Wednesday. Whoops. Here's my outfit. Wrangler jeans. This is my matching Arc'teryx. I got layers underneath. Pizza pie. Thrifted. Way too much money. Way too much money. Should not have bought this, but I did. I was scammed. I scammed myself. It's pretty, but I fucking hate it. Clang, bang, clang. Went the great iron door. Happy the White Lotus season finale eve. Today's Saturday, tomorrow's the season finale of the White Lotus, and I still have not finished the books, so I guess I'm not gonna be posting this video tomorrow. But hopefully the shock, the calamity of the season finale of the White Lotus is so robust and controversial that it reverberates days, if not weeks, into the future. I mean, I don't care that, it doesn't matter, but like, it would be kind of funny in a month to be like, White Lotus, remember that? Remember that, guys? My predictions right now, I think it's gonna be all those gay guys in Palermo that are gonna die. Those are the dead bodies. I don't know why. I think that Tanya's gonna go apeshit wild and just fucking find out that they're scheming and plotting and murder them. She's gonna pull out her machete from her silk, billowy, floral robe and decapitate all of them and then leave. However, last night I did start The Wretched of the Earth, and I think I'm gonna be able to finish it today. So far, it's just kind of talking about the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. The language at times can be a little bit inaccessible, but so far I'm not hating it. I definitely feel very like... Today I was gonna go to a cafe. But then I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, like I don't need to do that. The only reason why I wanted to go to a cafe today was so that I could read this in public and have people be like, oh, he's so smart and sexy. But I'm just gonna stay home and read this. Also, my dog has a sprained leg. Yeah. Margaritas! Bienvenici. Alright. That is foul. I swear to God, I didn't put any alcohol in that, but for some reason it tastes like there's alcohol in it. It tastes like there's like a double shot of tequila in there. So if you can't tell, I just got back from Italy, Sicily, to be exact. You know, they say that Sicily is like the Texas of Italy. But I did finish, one sec, I gotta open my computer. Hold on. Typing with my nails, my real nail. These are, I don't know what I'm talking, like I always type with these nails because these are my natural nails that I grew out of my fingers. So I don't know why I'm like, oh, I can't type with these. Also, it feels like I have my AirPods in, but it just is, my hair, it's a bit subtle. If you can't tell, like I don't blame you. I did get a little bit of like a bleach and a cut, a trim. It was a trim, more like a trim. I got a strand of hair that's trying to like touch my brain. So the first one that I read was My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, which is read in the first season by Alexandra Daddario's character. It was good. I gave it like 4 stars. The title is very fitting because it is about this girl. It's about her brilliant friend. And about halfway through reading, I said, oh, that's why it's called that. They live in a small town in Italy, but it centers around Elena and Lila, and they're both very smart. Lila is a bit of a bad girl. She's a troublemaker, whereas Elena is a good girl. However, Lila is just naturally like a genius, whereas Elena really has to work for it, which is like, story of my life. I feel like everyone knows that one person who are like, damn, like, this shit just comes easy to you. And there's just a whole bunch of other little families in this community that they live in that are fighting with each other. There's a lot of gossip. I feel like the one thing you hear about this book, and even before reading it, I knew very little about it. The one thing I did know that it's very gossipy. There's gangs, and yeah, it just honestly was fun. Like, it was fun. It just was a fun time. I love books where like family dynamics are a big theme and familial drama. This is definitely that. Plus, I feel like I learned a little bit of Italian. Like, arrivederci? Like what? Like, Mamma Mia? They said that in the book, like, multiple times. I said some crazy wild ass fucking stupid shit here. The reason why Rachel reads this is so obvious. It's because the book is so much about class struggle. You know, the two main characters, the two little girls, dream of becoming successful and wealthy. Not to spoil anything, but they kind of end up splitting as they grow up into their teen years and taking two very different paths. And I think that this screenshot kind of describes Rachel's life so perfectly, where it's kind of like she has to make this decision where she can either choose to become like a trophy wife and stay with Shane or go back to work. And that's just this empty space that is basically the wild, wild west. The next one I read was the book that Rachel's husband, Shane, reads, which is Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. First of all, I didn't realize that Malcolm Gladwell was like a super popular author. Like, he's written like these books that you've definitely seen. And I've actually read one of his books before and I had no clue. However, it was when I was in high school and it was summer reading, which I don't really understand why. It was for AP English. We had to read it for summer reading. I also had to read Jane Eyre for that class. And I remember we did a lot of work with Jane Eyre, but I don't even know if we really touched on outliers, like, at all. I don't know. Maybe it was just like inspiration because the whole book was about like prodigies, you know, outliers. But I remember liking it, actually, I think. This as well, I gave it 4 stars as well. What it's about is basically like intuition and gut instinct, but like the initial gut instinct, and kind of analyzing that and just understanding that mode of thinking. It just went through, you know, specific people and cases where that initial thought was integral. My problem with it was like the whole time I kept on thinking like, why do I need to be learning about this? Like, yeah, sure, some of the stories, most of the stories were interesting. However, with every single one, I was like, why? I can't seem to care. And I feel like a lot of the analysis that he did, because he would give an example and then analyze it, a lot of the analysis I felt like was a bit, I just didn't agree with it. Like, at one point, he straight up says that intuition, that initial gut feeling, is just as important as scientific research. I just don't agree with that. And I just don't know. I kind of feel like telling a whole bunch of alpha finance bros to listen to their gut instinct and ignore reasoning is, kind of a bad idea. Malcolm Gladwell's a great writer. However, yeah, a lot of the analysis I just was like, man, I don't know. The next one I read was Lost Children Archive, which is read in the 2nd season by Harper. This book I gave 5 stars. This was, I don't know, this was a mix of so many things I was not expecting it. Basically what it's about is these 2 people who I'm still not entirely sure what their job was. One was like a documentist, while the other was like a documentarianist. It was a couple, a man and a woman. The man, their jobs both had something to do with like recording audio. Basically, it's a road trip. What is that movie about like the daddy's home road trip? I don't know. Oh. I saw my nail out of the corner of my eyes and I was like, what the fuck? Because they just like look so good. Like, are you kidding me? So this couple, they also have children from different marriages though, or different partners, I guess. I don't know if they were married before. So the man has a boy, the girl has a girl, the boy is 10, girl 6, and they become a family. However, you find out in the beginning that the man at the end of this road trip plans on staying in, I think it was Arizona, with his son, and the woman is gonna fly back to New York with her daughter. So right off the bat, if you've seen season 2, there's some like relationship issues happening with Harper Harper and her husband. However, the whole thing is just about this road trip from New York City to Arizona. However, what I loved about this book wasn't so much the plot. It reminded me a lot of Alif Batuman's books, The Idiot, as well as Either Or, because it was just so funny and so much nonsense, but like academic nonsense and like side tangents and anecdotes that were so super interesting, as well as some mixed media in this as well, which I appreciated so much because, I mean, who doesn't love looking at pictures sometimes? It wasn't perfect. It definitely wasn't perfect, but it was something that I've never ever read before, and I feel like a step in like such a right direction for books that I would love to see more of. So I gave it 5 stars, mainly for how bold it was to tell a story like that in the way that it did. This one's also very obvious why Harper is reading this book, and at the time I was like, it's because of like, you know, like, but now that I've thought about it a little bit more, the whole book is about a couple. They're going on this trip, and the end of the trip kind of decides their fate. That is literally exactly what's happening with Harper and Ethan. Also, I think it's kind of telling that it's a group of 4, and they're both this like kind of dichotomous, very opposing pair. Because you have Harper and Ethan, who are very serious, and then on the other side you have Cameron and Daphne, who are very unserious and kind of childlike. The next one I read was read by Harper's husband, Ethan. Everything is Fucked Up, a book about hope by Mark Manson. I gave it 1 star, which I never do. If I feel like the author tried, I will give it like 3 stars. But this just felt like some bullshit. I do not know what this book was about at all. Mainly, from what I understand, nihilism.
I don't give a fuck. Do I look like I give a fuck? Because I don't.
Dude, like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know. It's similar to like Malcolm Gladwell's books where, you know, it'll talk about a specific person and something they did and then analyze it. But the thing is with his analysis, I never could understand what his analysis had to do with the topic. And then throughout the book, I didn't understand what any of them had to do with each other. Like, it starts out talking about a Polish soldier who infiltrated Auschwitz. I mean, supposedly he was the first one who let the world know about Auschwitz and what was going on there. But his point, sorry, I said so much random shit in the portion of this video and did not explain anything. His point with starting the book off with that was that people used to be brave and have hard stuff happen to them. And then he's like, and now in 2022, people freak out whenever a barista writes your name wrong. Like, we used to be brave, we used to be, like, infiltrating, like, concentration camps and stuff. Like, this isn't fair. But then it, like, starts talking about Nietzsche and, like, extraordinary people who, you know, revolutionized something, started revolutions, were super brave. But the problem, I think, was his tone and his way of writing was super sarcastic. He was constantly making jokes. His humor reminded me a lot of, like, a middle school boy. Super antagonistic and, obnoxious. I remember at one point he called me an idiot. Well, not me, but like the reader an idiot. Like, I don't remember what it was about, but it was like, oh, you think this way? Well, don't, idiot, because you're wrong, idiot. Okay. And I think it was meant to be like charming and endearing. It didn't translate, especially because it's like on a page, you know, you can't hear the way someone's saying these words. So a lot of it was just like, okay, like, I guess I am an idiot. Because sarcasm in like literature or just in print is incredibly difficult to do, especially if you don't know the person. So in my opinion, just don't do it because it's never gonna translate the way you want it to. Especially the type of sarcasm that is degrading and ridiculing the reader. And I guess I'm just more used to, when it comes to nonfiction, it to be a bit more like formal, I guess. And I think that it could have been interesting, but at least for me, and I think kind of objectively, it was just written poorly. Because there was some stuff that I found interesting, but it was just shadowed over by like this really pompous sarcasm that was just annoying. And maybe he's like watching this being like, that's the point, you're not supposed to understand what it was about. Like, a book about hope, fucking like fuck. But I think in my opinion, if you go away from a book a nonfiction book, being like, whoa, what the fuck just happened? Like, what was, like, I have no idea what just happened. I have no idea what that was even about. It's not a good thing. And I honestly was gonna give it 2 stars because, like I said, some of it was interesting. Until the end, he starts talking about AI taking over. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what does it have to do with anything? Also, give me a break. Like, come on, man. And I feel like a big part of his success as an author is due to the fact that he has to put fuck in every single one of his titles because it's obviously eye-catching. Why Ethan was reading this? Ethan to me just seems super lost. Kind of like a really insecure fish out of water. Kind of like a puppy dog who has no guidance but has so much power. And I feel like he also is very generic. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of personality. He's clearly very insecure. It seems that he's trying to find some guidance. But I do at the same time feel like he is the type of person that would like this book.
Because the book is super generic and flavorless, and I think would appeal to a very wide, clearly appeals to a lot of people. And Ethan is so flavorless and lacks so much personality. Ethan's the type of person to read this book and then start mimicking the author's personality. Ellen Harper is leaving his ass the second that he calls her an idiot.
And then the last one that I read was The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I had no idea that Frantz Fanon was like a super iconic author and theorist. I feel like it's a really great place to start if you want to learn about colonialism, which you should. I believe that Frantz Fanon grew up in Algeria, so it really focused on France colonizing Algeria. Going into this, you should have like some understanding of that. It wouldn't define terms, or some things just were not explained. I will say, I did not read the preface, so I skipped that. Also, the language at times was a little bit inaccessible. Like, I remember at one point, luckily I had Google, so I was Googling words that were not defined that I feel like should have been. Like, I remember he used the word fantasy, but spelled with a PH. I was like, oh, what is that? I Googled it and it was like, oh, this is the academic way of spelling fantasy. And I was like, that's just like not necessary, France. But the majority of it just kind of talks about colonizers, the colonized, and I feel like it goes pretty in-depth into their relationship as well as the two sides. Frantz Fanon is a psychiatrist, and it does say that it's like a psychological analysis of colonialism. The ending was just a whole bunch of separate case studies from people who were victims of colonization, but it was still super interesting and super beneficial to me and my life. Or not my life. My brain, my understanding of the world. So yeah, those are the books that I read for the White Lotus. Comment what place you think they should go to in season 3, and maybe, you know, I can make it happen. I can't, but I could like find Mike White on Instagram or something and DM him. I think they should go to Tallahassee. Okay, yeah. They gotta go somewhere in Florida. And yeah, thanks for watching. I gotta go. Sorry, my nail. That's like not natural. They wouldn't stop saying Mamma Mia in this fucking book.